Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought. It's like the billionaire Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn.
I don't know if you heard by now, but the GOAT of early mid-2000s internet YouTube marketing is now in trouble for alleged $112 million Ponzi scheme. I'm talking about none other than Tai Lopez, a guy who read the books in front of all the cars, and we all seen it over the last decade. So he's in some trouble. So this video, just trying to find out what happened. And so I know briefly that Ponzi scheme has something that he raised money to buy old companies and was supposed to do e-commerce websites for these old companies. Most notably Radio Shack, because Radio Shack was kind of going viral a little bit. But they said he did not do this. He did not start these e-commerce websites. So let's watch the video, and I'm going to react to it. What he's allegedly in trouble for, allegedly being sued for. And then I am going to say, do I think he's in criminal trouble, or whether he will win or lose his case against I think it's SEC regarding this alleged Ponzi scheme. And you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about this case.
Here in my garage, I've been sued for a $100 million Ponzi scheme. Yeah, the Here in My Garage guy, Tai Lopez, who essentially is one of the OG financial gurus on YouTube, is now being sued for allegedly running a $100 million Ponzi scheme. That's right, everyone's favorite Corsa and Lamborghini owner has now been exposed for what most people...
So you guys heard that he's been sued, not charged, but sued. So that's the big thing. Like, hey, I'd rather be sued than charged. Hey, that means, hey, there's no criminal potential outcome that go this like jail. But let's see.
Already assumed that he isn't that business savvy as he portrays himself as. Because on Monday of last week, the SEC accused Tai Lopez and his partner Alex Mayer of defrauding investors out of approximately $112 million through their holding company called Rev.
No, use your brain. They don't teach us in school financial literacy.
Yeah, I never learned anything about running a Ponzi in school. I mean, if only he had some knowledge from his bookshelf to teach him that running a Ponzi was a terrible idea, allegedly.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here.
This the OG commercial from back in the day.
It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge.
I've always thought that video was funny, but it's kind of funnier now. Also, side note, I'm pretty sure this is one of the most profitable YouTube ads ever, but that might also just be a claim from him, so now I'm a little bit unsure. But clearly, this guy has been on the internet for a while, peddling his courses that range from things like helping you to get fit or build an AI business to starting an Amish homestead.
Okay, I'm gonna find another video because he's not going deep into what's going on enough for me.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought. It's like the billionaire Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn.
This is Taino Adrian Lopez, better known as Tai Lopez. He is without a doubt the most
Never heard this guy full name before.
recognizable self-help finance guru in the world. His Here in My Garage video, released in 2015, has 72 million views. Tai Lopez has
72 million views is crazy.
become a meme. He represents a caricature of the so-called fake guru. Someone who shows off their wealth and says you too can achieve similar success if you sign up for their online course. Tai Lopez's success in the mid-2010s paved the way for hundreds of copycat influencers. Tai Lopez has been widely clowned across the internet for his over-the-top antics, but at first his business activities appeared to be completely legal. If you look at his website, one of his courses teaches you how to make a dropshipping e-commerce business. You have to pay $997 to access the course. To be clear, these courses are ripoffs. Most of them just contain generic information that you could easily find for free on YouTube, but there's nothing illegal about selling an overpriced online course. In 2020, Tai Lopez co-founded a company called Retail E-Commerce Ventures, or REV. He solicited investment from individual investors. Between 2020 and 2022, REV raised $230 million from individual investors. They used this money to acquire the brand names of defunct retailers such as Radio Shack. They intended to relaunch these brands as e-commerce businesses. All the way back in 2021, we released a video about REV. We concluded that the company was likely going to fail. We noted that Tai Lopez and his co-founder Alex Mayer didn't have any experience in running a large e-commerce business. Sure enough, REV failed very quickly. In 2023, less than 3 years after the venture was founded, it was reported that they were running out of cash.
Dang, they filed bankruptcy or they filed a bankruptcy. They filed. I know running a business is really tough, especially e-commerce. But you got Radio Shack. I wonder why they was so tough.
And were on the brink of bankruptcy. In 2024, the company shut down and was effectively liquidated. Investors suffered a near total loss. New information has recently come to light. The real situation at REV is far worse than we originally anticipated. In September of 2025, the SEC filed charges against Tai Lopez and a couple of his associates. They accuse REV of being a Ponzi scheme. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the alleged REV Ponzi scheme and how this could finally spell the end for the internet's most famous fake guru. Tai Lopez is a master at digital media advertising. At first, he advertised his self-help and make money online courses. He applied this same marketing method to solicit investment in REV. Let's watch an ad he posted on YouTube and other social media platforms in 2020.
Every so often an opportunity arises that is so big you have to double check just to make sure it's real. And what we predict to be 54 new investment opportunities have opened up right in front of our eyes. As the saying goes, there are decades where nothing happens and there are weeks where decades happen.
If you think about it, Tai Lopez kind of went away for a while. But when this company popped back up, he acquired these Radio Shack and all these Pure One companies, started selling back on the internet. He's still making videos to this day. So it kind of coexists.
Those weeks of change just happen. If you're an accredited investor, it's time to take action. My name is Tai Lopez.
To call this advertisement grandiose would be an understatement. He invokes Vladimir Lenin's famous quote, "There are decades when nothing happens, and weeks when decades happen." Lenin was referring to the rise of international socialism. Lopez was referring to the rise of e-commerce during the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, many brick-and-mortar retailers faced declining sales due to competition from e-commerce platforms like Amazon. Many once iconic retailers went bankrupt. REV's
On his face, making online business out of these known brands, it makes sense. It makes lots of sense. So I can see why a lot of people invested.
strategy was to acquire the brand names from the bankruptcy courts for very low prices. They would use these brands to launch new e-commerce businesses. Notable brands they acquired included Pier 1 Imports, Radio Shack, and Dress Barn. The ad includes pictures of a number of billionaires including Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Bill Gates, George Soros, and Elon Musk. None of these people had any affiliation with REV whatsoever.
Hey, these guys, master salesmen, master marketers. So hey, they gonna do anything. They gonna wheel you in. They know potential investors look up to these people and want to be these people.
None of them had any involvement with e-commerce either. The only reason their likeness is included in the ad is because they are billionaires. The ad also includes a computer screen showing Netflix's stock price. Netflix is not an e-commerce company and thus has no relevance to REV. The only reason they include Netflix's stock price in the ad is because it has increased a lot over the past decade. The ad is ridiculous to the point of being almost comical. One of the biggest concerns of REV was the lack of relevant experience of the two co-founders, Tai Lopez and Alex Mayer. In 2008, Alex Mayer co-founded an online dating service called Zoosk. Prior to launching REV, Lopez and Mayer worked together to create a new company called MentorBox. MentorBox was an online subscription service that provided summaries of self-help books. It didn't really seem like either man had the relevant expertise to run a mass-market e-commerce company. Tai Lopez tried to assuage these fears in an interview he gave to CNBC in 2020.
I started in e-commerce in 2001. I started way back with GE Capital, GE Financial. Saw the e-com opportunity. My business partner, Dr. Alex Mayer, he started in 08. So we've certainly been preparing.
Lopez claims he started in e-commerce in 2001 at GE Capital. Back in the day,
I never heard him claim this in none of his videos. I haven't watched a lot of them, but I just never heard. I seen a few interviews. I never seen him hear him speak about that.
General Electric used to be a diversified conglomerate. They had a subsidiary called GE Capital, which provided various financial services. Before Tai Lopez became an internet guru, he worked at GE Capital for a couple years as a financial planner. GE Capital was not an e-commerce company and had nothing to do with e-commerce. He says Mayer has been involved in e-commerce since 2008. That's when Mayer founded Zeusk. Nothing to do with e-commerce. Tai Lopez's claims about his and Mayer's e-commerce credentials were completely false. Also in 2020, Alex Mayer gave an interview to Yahoo Finance.
What your business does is you take brands all of us know, and in some cases all of us love, which have unfortunately died, but then you revive them. For instance, you just acquired two brands, Steinmart and Radio Shack. Anybody over the age of 20 knows at least Radio Shack. So what do you do with that? Because you're not doing brick and mortar. So what happens next?
We make them better. We modernize them, we bring them online, and we make them better. Sometimes these brands.
Again, like I said, on its face, sound like a good idea. I trying to start e-commerce businesses and sell on the internet, and so it's really, really tough work. You need a lot of advertising, but these companies are already known, and so it was a lot. It seemed like it was a lot of failure in the execution of this.
They're stuck in their old ways, and it's just a matter of shifting the business model and make them online and make them modern. That's all it takes.
Make it sound so simple. You just make it better. But I know when you're looking at these businesses, identifying what you want to buy, you're not going in, you're not buying everything, every single retailer that files for bankruptcy. What are you looking for when you're determining what you think is going to make something successful?
We have an internal formula, and we look at two factors. We look at a lot of factors, but two of them are the most important ones. One is brand awareness, and the second one is brand affinity. How many people, what percentage of the population, if you show them the brand, they can identify it and tell you what category of products it sells. And the second one is, how do they feel about it? Is it positive or negative?
So REV identifies well-known defunct retail brands and makes them better. It's as simple as that. Let's take the example of the electronics retailer Radio Shack, which went bankrupt in 2015. REV acquired the brand in 2020, at which point it had already been dead for 5 years. REV sets up an e-commerce website under the Radio Shack brand name. But this is easier said than done. What products are you going to carry? Where are you going to build your distribution warehouses? How are you going to...
Yeah, they probably try to take too many brands on or try to launch too many brands at one time. They probably should have done at least one or two at a time. Because that's a lot of work. Just running one website is a lot of work. What you're going to sell, how you make sure what's profitable, advertising, a lot of work. But they look like they took 8 to 10 and tried to do it one time, which they probably just didn't have the manpower or the capital to do, even though they're alleged to raise $230 million. But that still takes a lot of work.
to ship products to customers? Are you going to build your own logistics capabilities or outsource this to third parties? How are you going to process customer returns? And most importantly of all, how are you going to compete against the likes of Amazon and Walmart, who have 1,000 times more scale than you? They indeed launched a Radio Shack e-commerce website. Their featured product is a portable CD player. Very few consumers today even have any CDs to play. They also sell Radio Shack branded hoodies. For $71, you can buy a corded landline telephone. This is one of their top picks. If this is their top pick, I would hate to see what their bottom picks are. If you went to REV's website, they gave...
So, if you have a business like that, you still can resell popular stuff. Like, I bought my first iPhone from Radio Shack, and they were selling sales service back then. So, I wondered, was it just focusing on high value? I'm sorry, man. I wonder, were they just focusing on high value items high, not high value, high profitable items. Like a lot of this stuff that generic and unnamed brand, they was just reselling for as profitable versus like, hey, even though it's not profitable, we'll sell a lot of iPads. Little do most people know, because I've sold some things. When you buy items like the sell from Apple or something like that, you have to have a physical store. Well, I'm sure they could have probably negotiate something different if they buy direct for Apple. But you have to buy a minimum order, maybe 200,000 or $1 million, and the profit margin like the iPad, Apple is 17 profit like I'm just throwing out numbers, maybe 499, and the price is actually 549. And so it's a small margin, but you're going to sell a lot of. Or they could have sold used devices, and that would have worked because it's a bigger profit margin on used devices. So they just weren't selling stuff that made sense.
A brief bio for each of their executives. Their CEO Alex Mayer, who we've already talked about. Then we have Tai Lopez, who served as president of the company. Their chief operating officer was a man named Jonathan Kendall. It seems he has no relevant experience because they only have a quote talking about how much he likes books and art. They have an associate named Maya Birkenroad, who happens to also be Tai Lopez's cousin. They claim she has 10 years of experience managing multi-million-dollar companies. In reality, Birkenroad was a substitute preschool teacher and a promoter at a radio station. Lopez later hired her as his assistant. She never managed any company. They have
Nothing wrong with hiring family, but you don't want to lie about their credentials.
another associate named Anton DeMartino. It also appears that he has no relevant experience. His bio consists of a quote from Charlie Munger. Then there's a button saying co-invest with us. If you press this button, you're taken to a calendar where you can schedule a video call with an REV representative. On the video call, the REV representative would offer you a menu of investment opportunities. Instead of investing in REV as a whole, you could decide to invest in one of their individual brands. For example, let's say you want to invest in the sportswear brand Models. You can invest in either equity or debt. If you invest in Models debt, you'll receive an interest rate of 21 to 25% for a term of 1 to 7 years. If you invest in the equity, you will receive a monthly dividend of 2.1%. A 2.1% monthly dividend represents an annual dividend rate of 28%. Models sells niche sportswear items. For example, you can buy some Superman and Joker themed football gloves. You'd have to sell a lot of Superman football gloves to pay your investors 28% dividends per year. Between
Look like they overpromise and underdeliver.
2020 and 2022, REV raised $230 million. During this period, Lopez and Mayer would host weekly Zoom calls addressed to REV's investors. In these Zoom calls, they would talk about how great all their companies are doing. For example, in February of 2021, Lopez told investors that Dress Barn and Steinmart were on fire, and cash flow is strong. Unfortunately, this was not true. In reality, Dress Barn incurred a loss of $13.7 million in 2020 and $10.7 million in 2021. In January of 2022, Radio Shack launched its own cryptocurrency. This was a final act of desperation, an attempt to make a quick cash grab when the business itself had obviously failed. Predictably, the Radio Shack coin immediately dumped upon its release and became almost worthless.
People be trying to do coins for every single thing. It's crazy.
REV was obligated to pay millions of dollars per month of dividend and interest payments to its investors, but their brands were losing money, so how could they make these payments? In November of 2022, Alex Mayer sent the following email to new prospective investors, quote, "We're going all in on REV, and we want you to join us at the table. We've already been dealt a pretty strong hand with all the ace brands we've acquired over the past couple years, and we're not ready to cash out yet. If you don't want to look like a joker, then the time to get in on REV is now. Don't call our bluff. This deal folds this Friday, November 11th, so reach out to our investor relations team now," unquote. Mayer hoped that by creating this sense of urgency, REV could get a large influx of desperately needed cash, but this was not to be. By late 2022, their cash situation had become critical. They stopped making dividend and interest payments to investors. In May of 2023, REV became the subject of a class action lawsuit representing its investors. In 2024, the law firm came to
One thing I learned that these people will get you for their money. Like you play with people money, they gonna come at your neck. And as a business owner, you know, people are getting real serious about money, real serious. So hey, you might have good intentions, but if your good intentions don't pan out, be prepared for the blowback.
A settlement with REV. In lieu of the money owed to the plaintiffs, REV would transfer ownership of all of its e-commerce brands to a new business entity which is owned by the plaintiffs. Following this transaction, REV effectively ceased to exist. Given that all of these e-commerce brands are losing money, they're worth very little, a tiny fraction of the $230 million REV raised. Thus, REV's investors suffered a near total loss. REV operated as a Ponzi scheme. They raised a total of $230 million from individual investors. The early investors did receive dividend and interest payments for the first 2 years, but none of this money came from the e-commerce business. All the e-commerce brands were losing money. The dividend and interest payments paid to existing investors came from the money raised from new investors. According to the SEC, Tai Lopez siphoned $12.5 million to himself, while Alex Mayer siphoned $3.6 million. All REV investors lost money. Their highest
Man, you could pay yourself a salary, but God, that ain't that much of the investment.
yielding investment offerings yielded about 25% per year. The scheme lasted for a little under 2 years. Even if you got in at the very beginning, you would have received less than half of your principal back before the scheme collapsed. So far, Lopez and Mayer have only been charged by the SEC. The SEC is a civil regulatory agency, so cannot bring criminal charges. With that being said, it's safe to assume that the Department of Justice is preparing criminal indictments for both men, which will probably happen within the coming weeks. Given the size and sophistication of the alleged Ponzi scheme, they could be looking at decades behind bars. By their very nature, Ponzi schemes are unsustainable. They always crash under their own weight eventually. Once they collapse, it becomes obvious what happened, and the perpetrator is generally convicted with ease. Your chances of getting away with a Ponzi scheme are extremely low. This begs the question, why do people do Ponzi schemes? Tai Lopez has long been clowned for his over-the-top antics.
All right, we're gonna stop the video right there. And so let's just Google what the legal definition of Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme or a type of investment fraud which investors are promised artificially high rates of return with little or no risk. Original investors and the perpetrators of fraud are paid off by the funds related to investors, but there's little to no actual business activity that produces revenue. Oh, that sounds like Ponzi scheme. I mean, that sounds like what Tai Lopez was doing. Allegedly, it's all allegedly. And so, saw this video. I think Tai Lopez need to find him a good lawyer and a good accountant to fight his way out of this situation. You know, it sounds like he's going to be charged with fraud. He's probably going to be hit with a RICO. RICO is just not eating stuff or not work, not drugs and stuff like that. RICO is organized crime, and so if they get charged with fraud, that means that Tai Lopez was running a criminal organization under promising, over delivering, and there's no real revenue. And he was just using new investors to pay off old investments. And so that was a good overview of the facts, but we never really know unless we look at the actual lawsuit. I'm not gonna do that today. If it's coming to get a lot of views, I will look at the actual lawsuit and we go through it in another video. It's just unfortunate situation. I hope Tai Lopez fight his way out of it. He's one of the OG YouTubers, financial YouTubers out there. I don't know him personally. I'm just talking. But I do think he's probably about to get charged in addition to the civil lawsuit. And the civil lawsuit may get put on pause once he gets charged. That was tend to happen. The civil lawsuit get put on pause, and he might get charged. I think he may get charged with RICO and fraud, him and his partner. So he definitely need a lawyer up quick. Hey, let me know what y'all think below, and we'll keep an eye open for this lawsuit. As I always, turn to Wayne Hobson, need a lawyer. I'm in Mississippi. Holler at me 662-624-4100. That's 662-624-4100. Thank you guys, and see y'all on the next one.